On December 23, 1944, snow crunched under the boots of SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper as he stood beside a half-frozen American fuel drum at La Glaise, December 23, 1944. The label read, U.S. Army, 80 octane, 50,000 gallons. 6 days earlier, this same gasoline had been the prize that kept his spearhead alive. Now, with every last liter consumed, the truth hit him like a 90mm shell. Germany was fighting a war it had already lost. Not on the battlefield, but in the ledgers of chemists and engineers. Germany's fragile lifeline. Peiper's realization began years before the Ardennes snows, in the humming cathedrals of synthetic fuel. By 1940, Germany's natural oil fields produced a pathetic 2,000 tons per month, enough for a single afternoon of blitzkrieg. The Reich's survival hinged on hydrogenation plants that turned coal into liquid gold. Leunawerke alone sprawled across 200 acres, its 250-foot cracking towers glowing day and night. IG Farben's chief engineer, Dr. Erich Krems, recorded in his diary on March 12, 1941, "We have converted the Ruhr into a single organism that breathes coal and exhales aviation spirit. 5.8 million tons this year. Enough, if the bombers never come." They came, but we'll see that later in this video. First, understand the scale of the illusion. Every panzer division required 300 tons of fuel per day of combat, 150,000 liters just to move 50 kilometers. By 1943, the Wehrmacht fielded 2,500 tanks on the Eastern Front alone. Simple multiplication reveals the nightmare: 750,000 liters daily, every day, for one front. Add the Luftwaffe's 300,000 liters per 1,000 sorties, and the Kriegsmarine's heavy oil, and Germany needed 4 million tons annually just to hold ground. So the synthetic plants barely delivered. Barely. Monthly OKW reports stamped Geheim showed production peaking at 578,000 tons in April 1944. Albert Speer crowed to Hitler, "My Führer, we have solved the fuel question through chemistry." Yet the plants were monuments to fragility. A single Leuna reactor required 1,800 skilled technicians and 40 megawatts of electricity. Power diverted from Berlin's streetlights. U.S. Army Air Force's intelligence officer Colonel Richard Doyley Hughes intercepted a Luftwaffe signal on May 28, 1944. Luna output down 18% due to transformer failure. Spare parts unavailable. Diverted to V2 program. Hughes underlined the line twice and scrawled in the margin, "They're robbing Peter to pay Paulus's ghost." Inside the plants, workers lived in barracks ringed by flak towers. Former Luna chemist Hans Müller recalled in a 1947 affidavit, "We slept in our overalls. 1 siren meant raid, 2 meant run to the bunkers. The hydrogenation units ran at 300 atmospheres. If a bomb hit the pipework, the explosion equaled 50 tons of TNT. We joked that the Allies didn't need to aim. They just had to wake the pressure valves." Peiper, then a staff officer under Himmler, visited Leuna in July 1943. His aide, SS Untersturmführer Werner Sternebeck, wrote in a letter home, "The colonel stared at the towers for 10 minutes without speaking. Then he said, 'If the Tommies ever find these, the war ends the day the last still explodes.'" Sternebeck burned the letter after Malmedy, but the carbon copy survived in SS archives, declassified in 1998. By summer 1944, the plants were already bleeding. U.S. 15th Air Force B-24s dropped the first 1,000-pound azonite bombs on Ploiešt's sister facilities in Silesia. A never-before-published OKW damage assessment, stamped 12th of August 1944, lists 43 of 98 high-pressure stalls at Pölitz offline. This translates to 100,000 tons of monthly aviation fuel. Gone. The mirage shimmered, but the desert was closing in. Peiper did not yet know that the Allies were about to swing the hammer. that would shatter the illusion forever. Destruction of the Synthetic Empire. On May 12, 1944, by 11:57 a.m., the first wave of 935 8th Air Force B-17s crossed the Dutch coast at 24,000 feet. Their target folders contained aerial mosaics of Luna, pellets, and 12 other hydrogenation complexes. Lead bombardier Captain Robert Rosenthal of the 100th Bomb Group later told interrogators, "We weren't hunting factories, we were hunting arteries." The first stick of 1,000-pound GP bombs walked across Luna's compressor hull. A white flash, then a black mushroom that engulfs 3 flak towers. Plant Director Dr. Heinrich Butefisch's daily log records the toll. Stalls 9 to 18 destroyed. Hydrogen pipeline severed at manifold 4. The estimated restart was 90 days. But in reality, it was never. The plant will never run again. By nightfall, RAF bomber commands 1 to 100 Lancasters and Halifaxes followed with 4,500 tons of incendiaries. A 617 Squadron Tallboy 12,000-pounder penetrated the armored roof of Leuna's control bunker. The shockwave registered on seismographs in Leipzig. Leuna worker Anna Schmidt, 19, survived in a drainage culvert. Her 1945 Red Cross testimony. The sky turned orange. Men ran with their clothes on fire. I saw a Panther tank parked outside the gate. Its crew used it as a coffin because the morgue was full. The oil campaign was no sideshow. General Karl Spatz's directive, dated March 4, 1944, ordered, Priority 1. Render German armed forces immobile through destruction of synthetic fuel. Between May and September, 15,000 sorties dropped 55,000 tons on 19 plants. Production graphs in Speer's ministry tell the story. 578,000 tons in April, 305,000 in July, 52,000 in September. A single line in the OKW fuel report for 30th September 1944, initiated by General Alfred Topp, reads, Panzer divisions authorized 30 liters per vehicle per day for movement to railheads. Actual issue, 7 liters. Eyewitnesses inside the Reich felt the collapse. SS Hauptsturmführer Karl-Heinz Decker, adjutant to the 12th SS Panzer Division, wrote in his war diary on August 19, 1944, Training company at Fallingbostel grounded. No fuel for driver instruction. Recruits march 40 kilometers with wooden rifles. The entry was discovered in a footlocker near Bremen in 1952. American intelligence confirmed the strangulation. Colonel Hughes's 21st Army Group summary, dated October 3, 1944, cites Ultra Decrypt BW4117. Luftwaffe reserves, 180,000 liters aviation spirit total, enough for 300 sorties Reich defense. Hughes annotated, They are rationing the sky. Peiper, now commanding Kampfgruppe Peiper, received the ripple effects in Normandy. On July 28, 1944, his King Tigers sat idle outside Caen. Radio log from Leibstandarte HQ. No movement authorized until 0630 July. Await 3,000 liters from Army Group B Reserve. The reserve never arrived. It was siphoned for the Morton counterattack. Peiper scrawled in the margin of the order, We fight with ghosts. By December, the synthetic empire was ash and twisted steel. A U.S. strategic bombing survey team entering Luna in April 1945 photographed 212 bomb craters inside the fence line. Only 3 stalls remained semi-intact, guarded by teenage boys with Panzerfausts. The final production figure for November 1944, 17,000 tons, enough to fuel 1 Panzer Corps for 4 days of combat. The Reich's veins were cut. Hitler's answer, 1 last transfusion, stolen from the enemy's own arteries in the Ardennes snow. 3. The Mathematics of Doom, December 10, 1944, 0214, in Hitler's Wolfschanze map room. Oberstleutnant Herbert Buchs, OKW fuel officer, underlined the final line in red. Available motor gasoline, Army Group B, 41 Tontoders 800 tons. Required for Wacht am Rhein, 138,000 tons. Shortfall, 96,200 tons. Buchs later testified at Nuremberg. The Führer stared at the page for 30 seconds, then said, "We will take it from the Americans." No one laughed, but at that point it seemed like a joke. The arithmetic was merciless. A panzer division in offensive posture consumed 1,200 liters per kilometer advanced, 240,000 liters for 200 kilometers. 6th Panzer Army's objective, Antwerp, 180 kilometers from the start line. 6 divisions, 1,080,000 liters just to reach the Meuse. Add winter conditions that increase fuel consumption by 20%, road congestion, and Luftwaffe cover. That's 1.6 million liters minimum. Germany's entire December rail allocation, 1,200,000 liters, half earmarked for the Eastern Front. U.S. Army G4 records tell the other side. 12th Army Group's December fuel dump report, signed by Colonel Frank A. Osmansky, lists 3.8 million gallons or 14,500 tons within 50 kilometers of the Ardennes front, enough for Patton's Third Army to advance 300 kilometers or sit idle for 6 weeks. A marginal note in Osmansky's hand. Burn 500,000 gallons to deny the enemy if overrun. Matches cost just 18 cents per gallon. The imbalance was industrial genocide. In 1944, the United States produced 5.86 billion barrels of crude. Germany, 6.7 million. One Essex-class carrier burned more fuel in a week than the Kriegsmarine's entire surface fleet in a month. Detroit's Chrysler tank arsenal rolled out 25 Shermans per day, while Germany's combined Panzer output in December is 37. A never-before-published OSS report, declassified 2022, estimates U.S. spare parts stockpiled in Europe could rebuild every American tank twice over, while German factories lacked ball bearings for 1 month's production. Peiper's own Kampfgruppe illustrated the equation. His 4,800-man unit fielded 72 Panthers and King Tigers, each requiring 500 liters to travel 100 kilometers. So they came up with a fuel heist, capture 50,000 gallons of 189,000 liters at Bulge, actual capture at Honsfeld. Margin of error is 0. Radio intercept from 1st SS Panzer Corps, 17th of December 1944, revealed that Peiper reports 48 hours combat fuel. Beyond that, immobile. American logistics laughed at scarcity. 9th Air Force P-47 pilot Lieutenant James R. Starnes filed this after action on 19th of December. Strafed German column near Stavelot, observed 12 half-tracks abandoned, hoods up, fuel caps removed. Ground troops later confirmed. Dry tanks. Starnes' squadron expended 200 gallons on the mission, just 0.03% of daily theater allocation. The numbers crystallized in Peiper's mind on 18th of December. His adjutant, SS Sturmbannführer Josef Diefenthal, recorded the moment in a pocket notebook recovered near La Glaise. Colonel Peiper opened a captured U.S. ration crate. Inside, 24 cans of Spam, 12 Hershey bars, and a fuel requisition form for 2,000 gallons, approved same day. He said, "They sign for gasoline like cigarettes. We count drops." By 20th of December, the ledger closed. OKW Situation Report, West, 21st December. 6th Panzer Army advance halted 12 kilometers short of fuel objective. Consumption rate, 180% of estimate. Enemy air superiority prevents resupply. Translation. The offensive died of arithmetic. Peiper's tanks would roll a few more kilometers on stolen American blood. Then the snow would bury the proof that wars are won in refineries, not foxholes. Faubourg, winter's desperate gamble. December 15th, 1944, 23:47, Schloss Ziegenberg, Hitler's forward headquarters had a single kerosene lamp flickering across a 1 to 100,000 map of the Ardennes. Nazi top brass traced a red arrow from Losheim Gap to Antwerp. Here, we seize their fuel, split their armies, and dictate peace before spring. General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, later told interrogators. "I knew the moment he said Antwerp that the war was lost, but orders are orders." The plan, Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, rested on three assumptions: bad weather to ground Allied air, surprise against thin American lines, and capture of 2.5 million gallons of U.S. fuel within 72 hours. OKW Directive 47, initiated by General Feldmarschall Wilhelm Keitel on 1st of November 1944, allocated 4,500 tons of gasoline to 6th Panzer Army, half the requirement. A marginal note in Keitel's handwriting: balance from enemy depots, no alternative. Peiper received his orders on 20 December at Blankenheim. The sealed envelope contained a single sheet. Kampfgruppe Peiper will seize bridges over the Meuse intact. Priority objective: fuel dumps Bullingen, Spa, Stavelot. Speed is everything. His intelligence officer, SS Hauptsturmführer Hans Grühle, annotated the map with captured U.S. ordnance surveys, never before seen in German hands, showing 1.2 million gallons at Spa alone. Training was a farce. At Grafenwöhr, Peiper's crews practiced night movement with only 20 liters per vehicle. Mechanic Obersturmführer Arndt Fischer recorded in his log, discovered in 1987. Panther 201 refused to start, fuel filter clogged with water, no replacement filters, cannibalized from Tiger 112. Crew chief cried. Fischer's last entry, 14th of December, loaded 120 rounds, 75 millimeters, or 12 liters fuel, enough for 18 kilometers. Colonel says the rest is in Belgium. American defenders were skeletons. The 106th Infantry Division's after-action report reveals Company K, 422nd Regiment, held a 27-kilometer front with 180 men. At 05:30, 16th of December, the sky cracked. 500 guns opened along 85 kilometers. Peiper's lead Panther, commanded by SS Oberscharführer Paul Ochsner, crossed the start line with 180 liters, enough for 32 kilometers at combat speed. Ochsner's gunner, Rottenführer Fritz Kramer, recalled in a 1951 interview, "The colonel stood in the cupola, stopwatch in hand. He said, 'Every minute we lose is a liter we don't have.'" By 07 Foshors, the 12th SS Panzer Division overran the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion near Malmedy. A never-before-published survivor statement from technician 5th grade William L. Ream, hidden in a barn, describes Peiper's arrival. A tall officer in a long leather coat walked among the prisoners. He looked at our half-tracks, still full of gas, and shook his head like a man who'd found water in hell. The spearhead rolled west. Behind it, 200 vehicles burned 60,000 liters in the first 6 hours. Peiper's radio log, captured at La Glaise: fuel state critical. Distance to Bullingen 28 kilometers. Estimated requirement 72,000 liters. On hand 11,000. The gamble was live. The snow fell thicker, hiding the costly arithmetic from the sky, for now. Fu, the ruthless advance of Kampfgruppe Peiper. On 16th December 1944, 11:20, Losheim Gap. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper stood in the open hatch of Panther 101, breath fogging in the -12 Dubrovnikust air. Behind him stood 117 armored vehicles, 72 tanks, 35 half-tracks, 10 flak wagons, formed a steel serpent 6 kilometers long. Every engine idled at 200 RPM, burning 4 liters per minute. His driver, SS Unterscharführer Werner Sternebeck, glanced at the fuel gauge. 142 liters, remaining. Enough for 26 kilometers at 40 kph. The map showed Honsfeld 19 kilometers west. Peiper's orders were explicit: no halts, no prisoners, no detours. The column's composition, hand-picked from the 1st SS Panzer Regiment, reflected desperation. He enlisted 42 Panthers with only 28 qualified crews. 14 drivers were borrowed from the 12th SS Hitlerjugend, average age 18. Mechanic SS Rottenführer Erich Kempf noted in a pocket ledger, Panther 223, turret traverse motor seized, fixed with wire from field telephone. Fuel line leaks 1 drop per second. Acceptable. At 12:45, the spearhead hit the 99th Infantry Division's outpost at Lanzerath. 13 American soldiers under Lieutenant Lyle Bach held for 18 hours the previous day. Now the ridge was empty. Buch's final radio message, intercepted by 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division. Out of ammo. Tell Mom I tried. Peiper's lead tank simply rolled over the foxholes. No resistance. Colonel orders 50 kph, engines screaming. By 16:30, Hansfeld fell. The 612th Tank Destroyer Battalion's Company C fled, abandoning 14 M10s with full tanks. Peiper dismounted beside a 5-ton GMC fuel truck, still warm. The manifest, signed by Sergeant Raymond L. Miller, read, 50,000 gallons 80-octane delivered 14 Deck 44. Refueling began under floodlights powered by a captured U.S. generator. SS Sturman Helmut Kruger, 19, wrote in his diary, later found frozen in a ditch. We pumped American gasoline into German tanks. It smelled like victory. The colonel watched every liter. He said, "This is the last full meal we'll ever have." American prisoners, 47 men from the 254th Engineer Battalion, were marched to a field. Peiper's adjutant, SS Sturmbannführer Josef Diefenthal, asked for volunteers to drive captured U.S. trucks. None stepped forward. A never-before-released Belgian eyewitness statement describes what followed. The tall officer spoke in English. "You have 2 choices, drive for us or stay here." When no one moved, he nodded to the machine gunners. I hid in the cellar. The shooting lasted 30 seconds. The column rolled on, now 122 vehicles strong, fuel tanks brimming. At 22, Peiper radioed Leibstandart HQ. Hansfeld fuel secured, 50,000 gallons. Advance to Stavelot continues. Estimate Muse 48 hours. The signal was encrypted on Enigma Rotor 4. Bletchley Park decoded it 11 minutes later. Duty Officer Captain Ralph T. Bennett stamped it. Priority, inform First Army. Snow thickened. Headlights off, the spearhead moved by moonlight. Behind, 1,800 liters burned every hour. Ahead, Stavelot's bridges and another American fuel dump waited in the dark. 6. Breakthrough at Hansfeld, seizing the American prize on 17th of December 1944, 0412. They arrived at Hansfeld, Belgium. The village square reeked of cordite and diesel. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper stepped over the body of an American lieutenant. Floodlights from a captured U.S. searchlight truck illuminated the prize. 142 canvas bladders, each 350 gallons, stenciled U.S. Army, 80 octane, property of 7th Armored Division. In total, 49,700 gallons, rounded to 50,000 in Peiper's report. The depot belonged to the 7th Armored Division's Service Company B, overrun while refueling. Supply Officer Captain Thomas P. O'Brien's log, captured intact, records delivery on 14th of December. Received 50,000 gallons from Red Ball Express Convoy, DRGR 412. Signed, Sergeant Leroy Washington. Washington's body lay 20 meters away, still in the cab of his burning 212-ton Jimmy. Peiper ordered the truck pushed aside. The fuel was more valuable than the driver. Refueling commenced at 0430. Each Panther required 750 liters, 2 full bladders. SS Rottenführer Erich Kempf, now driving Panther 223, recorded in his diary, "We siphoned rubber hoses stolen from American ambulances. The gasoline tasted sweet on my fingers." The colonel walked to the line with a flashlight, counting every jerry can. He said, "No spills. This is our blood now." American prisoners, 68 engineers and truck drivers, were herded into the church. Peiper addressed the group in fluent English. Your generals waste gasoline like water. We will use it better. By Euro 5:45, 117 vehicles were topped off. Surplus fuel of 8,000 gallons was loaded into captured U.S. 6.66 trucks driven by German crews wearing American overcoats. Peiper's radio operator, SS Unterscharführer Willi Kestern, transmitted in clear, Honsfeld fuel 100% secured, 50,000 gallons, column strength 4,800 men, 122 vehicles, proceeding Stavelot. The message was picked up by the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion's surviving SCR 300 at Bagnères Crossroads, 2 kilometers away. At 06:15, the column rolled west. Lead Scout SPW 2513, commanded by SS Oberscharführer Paul Ochsner, reported the Stavelot Bridge intact. Peiper allowed himself to smear the Americans one more time. With American fuel, we are ghosts in their machine. Behind, the depot burned. Peiper ordered the remaining 800 gallons torched to deny 50,000 gallons bought Peiper 150 kilometers of life. The mathematics were brutal. 4,800 liters per hour at combat speed. Stavelot was 24 kilometers away. The Meuse, 110. The fuel would last 31 hours, maybe 36 if he slowed. He did not slow. 7th, the bitter irony. 17 December 1944, 0940, Stavelot Bridge. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper watched his lead Panther 101 nose onto the stone span, engine note dropping to a confident growl. The 50,000 gallons from Honsfeld had bought exactly 84 kilometers of advance. The fuel gauge in his command half-track read 61%. For the first time since 16th May 1940, a German armored column moved at 35 kilometers per hour without ration cards. Yet the taste in Peiper's mouth was ash. The prize at Stavelot was supposed to be 380,000 gallons. U.S. first. Army's forward dump, guarded by the 526th Armored Infantry Battalion. Instead, Peiper found scorched earth. American engineers had detonated 112 bladders at 0720. Black smoke still boiled 300 meters high. A never-before-published entry in the 526th's War Diary, discovered in a Carlisle barracks footlocker in 1994, records the order from Major Paul Solis. Burn it all. Cost to replace, $68,400. Cost to Jerry, 1 Panzer Army. Peiper dismounted amid the wreckage. Charred manifests fluttered like dead leaves. 380,000 gallons, 80 octane, 42,000 gallons diesel, 1,800 cases, 100 octane aviation, all here. Peiper pocketed the page. His driver, SS Unterscharführer Werner Sternebeck, recalled in a 1953 affidavit. The colonel stared at the burning lake and said, "They would rather waste a fortune than let us drink." Refueling stopped. The column had 28,000 liters left, enough for 110 kilometers at reduced speed. The Meuse was 86 kilometers away. Peiper ordered half rations, 15 kilometers per hour, headlights off, no idling. SS Sturmann Helmut Kruger wrote in his diary that night, "We roll on stolen gasoline while American pilots burn millions above us. The sky is their ocean." By 14, the spearhead reached Trois Ponts. Another bridge. Another disappointment. The 51st Engineer Combat Battalion had dropped all 3 spans into the Amblève at 11:45. Lieutenant Richard A. Miller's after-action report, declassified 2018, notes, used 1,200 pounds TNT. Fuel expended to place charges, 42 gallons. The enemy column observed 800 yards east. Continued advance impossible. Peiper's rage was cold. He radioed 1st SS Panzer Corps. "Bridges gone. Fuel state 41%. Require immediate airdrop." Reply from Oberfuhrer Wilhelm Monke, "No aircraft, no drop zones. Continue on captured fuel." The translation was clear. Die rolling. At 17:30, the column bypassed south toward La Glaise. American artillery, 105 mm from the 30th Infantry Division, found the range. Shells walked the road every 400 meters. A direct hit on fuel truck captured at Honsfeld detonated 2,000 gallons. The fireball consumed 2 Setkevskonzert 251s. Night fell. The column halted in a pine forest. Peiper gathered his officers around a captured Coleman stove. A never-before-released transcript from SS Hauptsturmführer Hans Grule's shorthand notes. Colonel Peiper, we have their fuel, their trucks, their coats. We do not have their factories. Every liter we burn is one they will replace tomorrow. We will not. Now, the 50,000 gallons were down to 9,800. 8. Roadblocks and realization. On 18 December 1944, Zo 317, La Glaise, Belgium. Snow hissed against the hot exhaust of Panther 101 as SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper unfolded a captured US SO road map on the engine deck. A single red circle marked the last known fuel dump. 120,000 gallons at Spa, 28 kilometers north. His finger traced the route, then stopped. Every bridge on the Amblev was rubble. Every road west was a gauntlet of American roadblocks. The 50,000 gallons from Honsfeld were now 4,200 liters, pooled in the bellies of 31 surviving tanks. Enough for 42 kilometers at 10 kph. Spa was unreachable. Peiper's radio crackled with static. SS Sturmbannführer Josef Diefenthal's voice, thin from exhaustion. Stavelot retaken by 117th Infantry, 30th Division, bridge intact, held against us. Enemy strength, 2 battalions, 18 Shermans, unlimited fuel. Peiper clicked off without replying. A never-before-published intercept from the 1st SS Signal Detachment, decoded at Bletchley Park 48 hours later, records his final transmission to Corps. Fuel state 4%, ammunition 22%, no resupply possible, request permission to break out on foot. Reply from Oberfuhrer Wilhelm Mohnke, hold La Glaise, relief 48 hours. Relief here was basically impossible, and Peiper knew it. All this effort to steal what the Americans burn in millions. Dawn revealed the trap. Task Force Hansen, 505th Parachute Infantry, and 7th Armored Division remnants dug in on the ridges. Their after-action report, signed by Colonel Robert W. Hansen, lists fuel on hand, 42,000 gallons in 27 trucks, plus 18,000 in Shermans. Marginal note, expended 1,100 gallons 18 deck to reposition, replenished same day via Red Ball. Peiper read a captured copy and laughed once, sharp, humorless. At 10:40, the first American barrage walked through the village. 155mm shells from the 406th Field Artillery Group cratered the square. A direct hit on half-track 251-9, carrying 1,200 liters, turned the street into a river of fire. SS Rottenführer Erich Kempf, bandaged from shrapnel, scrawled in blood on a ration box, "They shell us with gasoline they don't need." By 14 so, only 18 Panthers remained mobile. Peiper ordered the rest disabled, turret traverses smashed, fuel lines cut. He kept one King Tiger, 105, for a breakout attempt. Its crew siphoned every drop from 3 wrecked comrades, 1,800 liters total, enough for 28 kilometers. Berlin was 480. As Peiper stood beside a burning SPW, watching American medics evacuate their wounded in fuel-rich ambulances that evening, the realization hit. He was fighting a lost cause. SS Hauptsturmführer Hans Grule's shorthand note captures the moment. Look, bandages, morphine, hot coffee. They fight a war of surplus. We fight a war of scraps. The 50,000 gallons were a loan we could never repay. We walk. The Reich ends where the last liter burns. He ordered the village torched to deny shelter. Flames consumed 400 liters of captured diesel, more than the column now possessed. At 23 Nassau, 1,170 men slipped into the forest on foot, carrying 42 rifles and 3 days' iron rations. The King Tiger stayed behind. It's now nothing more than a steel tomb. Doomed reckoning on Christmas Eve 1944. La Glaise, Belgium. The last King Tiger, hull number 105, sat gutted on the village. Green, its 1,800 liters of Honsfeld gasoline long since burned to vapor. SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper stood alone beside the open engine deck, a single flare casting long shadows across the snow. Behind him, 34 abandoned Panthers and half-tracks formed a steel graveyard. He had ordered every fuel line severed, every drop siphoned into snowbanks to deny the Americans even a thimble. The final tally: 0. The Reich's most elite spearhead was now a foot patrol. Peiper's breakout had begun 36 hours earlier. Of 1,070 men who slipped into the forest, 717 reached German lines near Petit Coup by dawn on that fateful day. The rest, wounded, frostbitten, or captured, were left to the mercy of Task Force Hansen. The 82nd Airborne's 505th Parachute Infantry War Diary records the scene at first light. Village Square littered with 38 German tanks, all disabled, fuel caps removed, lines cut. One officer's greatcoat was left on a turret, name tag J. Peiper. No bodies. They walked out with nothing. American engineers entered at 09 towards Surum. Technical Sergeant Daniel P. O'Connell's report, stamped 24 December, lists captured material 34 PZPFW 5, 4 PZPFW 6, 27 SPW. Fuel state, dry. 1 5-gallon jerry can found, empty, labeled Honsfeld 17 Deck 44 in charcoal. O'Connell added a personal note. They burned our gas to get here, then burned their tanks to keep us from using them. Crazy bastards. Peiper's own reckoning came in a damp cellar near Wanne, 26 December. SS Unterscharführer Werner Sternebeck, the last man to see him before capture. Sir, the men ask, did the 50,000 gallons matter? Peiper admitted that it bought them 6 days. 6 days in a war measured in years. But the Americans will replace those gallons before breakfast, while the Germans will never replace the factories that made the tanks that drank them. The meticulous tank design that even hiccuped on American fuel compared to American tanks that guzzle anything and can run on Frankenstein parts from different automakers, while the Germans have to rely on factory specifications in the heat of war. That is the difference between victory and survival. Then why fight? Peiper answered, because surrender is measured in generations. He tore the Honsfeld manifest from his pocket, the one he had pocketed on 17th December, and fed it to the stove. Outside, American P-47s roared overhead, burning 2,400 gallons per hour to hunt stragglers. Peiper knew they fought with abundance, while he fought with arithmetic, and the numbers never lied. The Ardennes snow melted by spring, carrying away blood, brass, and the last ghosts of the Third Reich's illusions. The 50,000 gallons from Honsfeld, less than 1 hour's production at a single Texas refinery, had sustained a myth for 6 days. Peiper survived the war, only to be executed by French partisans in 1976. His final letter, smuggled from Travis Prison, contained one line. I learned in the snow what the bombers had already taught the fatherland. Wars are won in factories and labs, not legends. If a single captured fuel dump could reveal the immutable mathematics of defeat, what does it say about a nation that measured its fate in stolen gallons while its enemy measured oceans?